Hello world. So, do you like an homage, baby? So, I decided today, it was Friday the 13th, and I decided that, we need to talk about someone special, someone unique, someone that the annals of history chooses to forget often. That someone is Mary Magdalene. That's right, the famed whore of Christianity. Now, the thing about Mary Magdalene is if you study the Kabbalah, pardon me, I've had a couple drinks, because, Friday the 13th belongs to Mary Magdalene. Now, most of us have gotten over the whole fear of Friday the 13th and all that superstition. But some people don't understand how it all developed. I mean, it started with the witches. That's what a lot of people believe, because a coven was 13 members. But let's think for a second here. Judas, an apostle, betrayed Jesus. So that would have left Jesus and 11 apostles. But then we had Mary Magdalene, who was always Jesus' number one. And that made Jesus and 12 apostles after Judas, betrayed him. And the thing about Mary Magdalene that the church never wanted to pay attention to is she was the only one, who got it. There's a passage where, I believe it's in Matthew, maybe it's in John. But anyways, they asked Jesus why they would even consider listening to a woman. Because of course, 2,000 years ago, bitches were slaves, right? They were property, they were useless. Or, as the Catholic Church and Christianity likes to portray Mary, a whore. Even though probability is that Mary Magdalene was actually very affluent and wealthy, therefore coming from, a rich family with money. So, we have to celebrate the 13th as Mary Magdalene's Day. When it falls on a Friday the 13th and that superstition shit hits, that's what I'm celebrating as Mary Magdalene on the 13th. Because she was Jesus' favorite. You have to question this? Well, ask yourself this. Why was she the first person Jesus revealed himself to after the resurrection? That shit right there, don't lie, sister. Because, when Jesus was like, hey, I got 12 people to choose from, what the fuck am I going to do? He didn't choose no masculinity. He didn't choose no male apostle. He chose a woman. He chose Mary Magdalene. He also told Mary Magdalene, who was very pronounced in spreading the gospel of Jesus, to go out. And she was the first person to go out. She was the first person to understand how to build your church on rock instead of sand. She was the first person to understand 99.9% of what Jesus spoke about. But, see, the Catholics, they didn't want that shit, They were like, nope. This bitch, no. No, not this bitch, no. But see, that's the problem with what we've had going on for 2,000 years. And I will say this about Tibetan Buddhism and the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama's full of shit, bitches. Because, if the Dalai Lama, for all his truth and all his sacredness and all that shit, ever came back with a vagina, I might be like, yo, this bitch is for real. But that bitch ain't for real, because that bitch always has a penis. That bitch never come back with some pretty ass titties. You know what I'm saying? He always gotta have a penis. And he's like, oh, well, if there's going to be a Dalai Lama that's a woman, she better be beautiful. Well, honey, when we talk about reincarnation and when we talk about how things need to manifest according to a balance, your stinking ass is always a boy. So you ain't balanced, Mr. Dalai Lama. You're off balance because you're so masculine, you're just chaos. And that's what you got to look at when you're looking at religion, and when you're looking at balance, you got to look at the femininity, the power of the femininity. Now, in Kabbalah, they say that Mary, mother of Jesus, was Binah. But see, I disagree. I think Mary Magdalene becomes Binah because technically, according to the way of Thelema, Mary Magdalene becomes Babylon, and therefore the mother of the earth. Because she did. She tended to the flock. She was, there telling us, this is the word of the gospel. But yet all these other people were like, well, she's just a woman. We can't, no, there's no way. And yet I have to ask yourself, well, Jesus told you there was a way, and Jesus told you what that way was, but you're just sitting there like, not with this bitch, no way, So what do we have with the founding apostles of Jesus? We have jealousy, we have envy, we have pride. So tell me how the Bible, without Mary Magdalene, has any value, because honestly, sweethearts, you can't have love and life without inception. And inception involves masculine, feminine, the sperm and the egg. And if you got 12 guys sitting around fucking masturbating over, the gospel, that gospel ain't going to be, brought to fruition, because that fruition is all about the egg and the sperm becoming a life. So, again, the Friday the 13th, it belongs to Mary Magdalene, because, Mary Magdalene, she had her shit together. She understood things. She didn't even question Jesus. She just blindly was like, oh, this is what you say. This is the way it's supposed to go. I'm going to follow you. Now, technically speaking, a woman blindly following a husband is a lot what feminists today are like, no way, no way. But when you're sitting with a yogi, a teacher, a master, and you blindly just accept what the master says, and then you actually find out that the master is telling you the truth, because what you did was you tried what the master told you to try, and you found out, hey, this shit works. Well, guess what? That just means that you're actually like, you're there, you're on point. And as my holy guardian angel, or some higher level of consciousness, explained to me today, there's a lot of people out there living in fear. They're living in, this almost like 1930s belief system, because right now, the Americans are getting ready for war with China. That's going to happen because the Chinese have a bunch of Navy bases just somewhere off the coast of Japan, South China Sea, something like this. And the Americans, the ones coming in, not the Obamas, but the Trump Americans, they're getting upset, and they're getting upset about, how this is all going to play out, because, God forbid the Chinese should have, more arsenal than they do. So that's happening. And, that's something to keep your eye on, kids, because here's your problem if you're living in the States. Your government, through, say, Bush and Obama and Clinton and all of these people, well, they racked up debt, trillions of dollars of debt. And your government has now decided that because Trump is coming in, it has the power to fuck with bigger countries that have more power, countries that have more money, and countries that your government signed treaties with and signed rules and boundaries and trade with, because it lost its debt to those countries. So those countries just bought your asses like, over the last 10, 20 years. So all the shit that's going on in America, I mean, you guys can think you're a Western country, but Japan now can rearm itself. Japan can now become a nation with military assistance. Ergo, Japan can now become its own nation again and not be crippled by the inability or, issues that the U.S. imposed on them to not have military power. Japanese is now becoming a military power, and you all remember what happened at Pearl Harbor, right? Japanese military, yeah, hello. So now you're going to fuck with China, who is a military power, kind of like Jerusalem, Israel. And anyways, it's Friday the 13th. So here I am, as whorish as I can be, because I just don't give a fuck. because I believe in Mary Magdalene, because I believe that if you're going to follow Jesus, you have to do what Mary Magdalene did. And you just have to love people. You have to show them that, your pussy is virile. Your pussy is ready to procreate. Because Mary Magdalene said to Jesus that I am ready, I am here, I am listening, and I am doing. Because Jesus said, oh, you know what, you get it. I'm going to show up to you first. Now, as a psychic, I'm going to tell you something. She had gifts. She was psychic. Because if she saw Jesus right after the resurrection, she could see with her third eye. She was the most enlightened of the apostles. So, cheers to Mary Magdalene. And cheers to peace on earth, because right now what we need to focus on is ourselves. We need to focus on the fact that mankind has, even in the moments of Jesus, the whole book written for and by Jesus, mankind, it's still not doing it for me. It's everybody's at a different level, and I get that. I appreciate that. But you know what? When you're at your different level, you need to learn that you're entitled to be a racist, you're entitled to be a bigot, you're entitled to be an asshole. What you're not entitled to is passing that on to somebody else. Whether it's your children, whether it's you in your lifestyle. If you're around a bunch of bigots and racists and all that shit, have at her. Have your hors d'oeuvres, have your party, do your shit. And I'll leave you alone because, here's me doing my thing. What I don't like is when you think that I need to know what you know, and when you think that I need to be a part of your racist profiling, when I need to be a part of your racist grouping, when I need to be something other than who I am. And see, Mary Magdalene, she understood what individuality was all about. The apostles, who we can say are the reason that we have the KKK and all this racist bullshit. And I'm actually Islamophobic because I am literally not happy with Sharia law. Sharia law is like 500 years old, 2,000 years old, whatever the fuck. I'm not a fan of Sharia law, therefore I'm not a fan of Islam. Now, that said, if you allow for Muslims if Muslims acknowledge that living in the West, the Sharia law was not something they were going to follow, I wouldn't have a problem with Islam. But if you were going to allow Sharia law to exist within the Western civilization, I have a problem with that. That's where my problem with Islam draws from. And, Islam is, again, not a race. It's a religion of Abraham. So on this day, let us remember that every woman matters, that equality matters, that we should look at equality as the seriousness of what it is. How infected is our country, are our countries with inequality against women? Whether it's Islam, whether it's Christianity, whether it's Judaism, I don't give a shit. Look at the inequality. It is Friday the 13th. Let's stop being superstitious and let's get serious because, we need to stand up for our sisters.